Aloha. Kakahiaka. That means good morning in Hawaiian. I'm so glad you guys could show up. I'm so glad I could show up. Broadcasting again from this little harbor in Gibson's Marina on the Sunshine Coast, just north of Vancouver. Yeah, I'll be with you for the better part of an hour. I've got another appointment in an hour, so I'm going to end a little bit early today. But I have some really, really yummy stuff to share with you. And as usual, I like to start with a song. But I think I'll start with a prayer. So let's all just go inside right now. Collect yourself. I call it going vertical in my books. Opening your crown chakra and breathing in the light of God, higher self, universe, whatever you prefer. And just feeling yourself get really calm for this next hour. Father, Mother God, thank you for this opportunity to join with you more consciously and aware of our beingness as a part of you, as your beingness is a part of us, and how we are not separate. This is the grand illusion that there is separation. Well, apparently the separation never took place, so there's nothing to mend there. As we merge in consciousness with you, we are so grateful to have this life, to have this breath, to be able to take the next step, to have the next thought, regardless of what it is, to have the relationships that we tend in our garden of consciousness here on earth. Even during challenging times, we are so grateful that we know this is to bring us closer to remembering that we are whole, happy, complete, and one with all that is, as you, as us, as we. Thank you for the challenges and the blessings, and thank you for all the food and the shelter and the warmth and all the wonderful beings that surround us in our orbit and support the consciousness that we all know and love so much. Ao makua, mai kapo aiola, ho ikea, mai ikeola. Great Spirit, bring forth the water of life and manifest this prayer. Mama ua noa lele valeakula. Fly off and manifest. Yay! Okay, I think I'm going to just jump right in and save the song for last. Yeah, first of all, we've got some wonderful questions that were thrown in the chat here. So I'm going to start with those. I want to know more about the new course you're offering on Saturdays. That's a really good question. Yeah, miracle mindset technology. Yeah. Well, these next 4 Saturdays, beginning this coming, I'm going to help people come into a miracle mindset as their newest and greatest achievement of the week, of the year, perhaps of their life. And how do we do that? Well, we look at the programs that are running and the ones that are not really working. And there are a lot of them that we inherited through various lineages and teachers that we've had in life. So we're going to observe those and make different choices. We're going to choose miracles. A miracle mindset is a mind that sees the world entirely differently. And unbeknownst to us, when we come here, this is why we come. Yeah, we come here to view the world beyond what we've been trained to think about the world. You know, it's so easy to have chats about, what's not working in the world. Oh, so common. Social media and over coffee with your friends and family. I had a few chats last night, and they can move into politics. They can move into all kinds of different places where relationships have gone south. Broken. Yeah, there's not communication. Well, the miracle mindset is a way of learning how to communicate with yourself first in all aspects of you. Your mind, your spirit, your body, your volitional body, your mental, emotional body, and rewire the mind so the patterns become more pro-life, pro-innocence, pro-freedom, without guilt, without shame, which is neatly tucked under the carpet, is what I see in myself and others. Things that we could not process that happened to us in life. Been there. I have experienced the most devastating challenges in this life that many are going through now. And after the first bankruptcy and divorce, first only, well, yeah, actually, yeah, it was the first divorce. There was a time where I was completely broken in every realm, and I couldn't work, I couldn't eat. Yeah, I had to leave the island, Kauai, where I was living, because it was so, the challenge was so overwhelming. It was hard to sleep, and I just started examining what all this pain and suffering was about. So it took me quite some time to figure it out. 17 years, actually, before my first wife and children would even speak to me in any kind of way that was forgiving or loving or, yeah. So, yeah, and then so many heartbreaks after that, just trying to find myself. And I came upon Ho'oponopono, this 2010. I'll never forget. And I really took it on, full on, like studied it well. And I discovered that it was science, that it was pure science. That's why I call it forgiveness technology, because it is. Technology is the actuality of the parts of science that are actually working and growing to bring us a better life. So forgiveness technology is the answer to that question about the next couple of Saturdays. And forgiveness is kind of a trigger word, I notice, for a lot of people. Think they've done it or don't want to do it. They can't blame them. What we were taught about forgiveness is kind of scary. But when you look into the technology, to the science of how the mind actually works and how energy moves between you and another, that fascinates me. And how what gets locked in the mind in regards to thinking about another or thinking about oneself becomes our experience. Yeah. So if you are thinking negative thoughts about yourself, I'm not enough, I'll never be enough, I'm not like the others, and so therefore I'm not worthy of success, I'll never have enough money, there'll never be enough love. Yeah, and all these engender feelings that hold us like gravity to the earth. and they create a kind of suffering and pain and looping of these patterns. So the Course is about observing the patterns, accepting the patterns, and making another choice for a miracle mindset. When you flip all those patterns, what you have is, I am enough. I am worthy. I am innocent. And there is no past. It doesn't even exist. And that's one of the hardest parts for the ego to get. And yet it's true. Where is the past besides in a memory box in your mind? You can't look around and see the past. When you see someone from your past, it will bring up memories of the past. And so that keeps those programs looping of, oh, that person doesn't like me. Oh, that person, really doesn't want to connect. And on a level of everything is separate, and this is the only reality, that's relatively true. Yet on a level just above that, it's not at all true. What we're experiencing is what we are projecting on the other. That's exactly what we're experiencing. It literally has nothing to do with the other person. That's why I call it science. And how I know this is because of the achievement that I accomplished by erasing the thoughts of what I was thinking my sons and their mother were thinking. They reside in these little like deposit boxes like you see in a bank or in a post office. And, when you think of them, it opens and that loop comes up. They don't like me. They don't want to talk to me. They'll never forgive me. All of those things. So I had to open each one of those boxes and bring light, Holy Spirit, higher self, God, whatever you want to call it, aloha, into that box and blast that memory with light lovingly and have it erase. And that's what Dr. Hugh Lin called it, erasing. And I did that for 2 weeks, every day. And I also erased what was in those boxes about myself. All the negative thoughts that were holding me back from being able to connect with not only my sons and their mother, but other people who I had a rift with from the past. Those memories, they get locked. They actually get locked in place. And that's what keeps the loop flowing, is when a memory is locked. So what we're going to do in these trainings is we're going to go into those memories and we're going to unlock them and we're going to set them free. They're like ghosts in the closet. And they actually determine our reaction to people. Yeah. And there's a little shame in there. We don't want to connect because we feel shame about what took place before. We haven't forgiven ourselves. We don't know how. All of these things. It's crazy. It really is insane how we're all doing this. And we all know we're doing it. We don't know how to get out of the loop. So come on Saturday and I'll teach you how to get out of the loop. We're going to work with each person individually, one at a time, and bring up some of these, open these little boxes in their memory where things need forgiveness technology. Unlock the box, open the memory. You don't have to relive the memory. You just have to acknowledge it. And sometimes that will bring tears because of how much love was locked away by that memory. Because what is reality is we are all here to love each other. And in the dimension just above Earth, that is what's happening in the spirit dimension. And that's what a miracle is. It's where love replaces where there isn't love. So that's the miracle mindset, which was the second question. What is the miracle mindset? It's the ability to flip your vision, your thoughts, your thought forms, which changes your feelings from fear of connecting with someone, from fear of not knowing how to forgive yourself, into a completely clean slate of pure innocence, which we were born with, in which when we leave this body, we return to. Yes, we are all innocent in the eyes of God. And that is the truth. And you can hear that in your heart. There are some religions that will not promote this. And that's okay. They can do their thing. They can feel as guilty as they want, as long as they want. And that's true for each one of us. Yeah, absolutely. If you think you have to pay for something that happened in the past, you will. But if you know that you can let that memory go, bring it to heaven, bring the light to it. If you know how to do that, that memory doesn't even have any power any longer over you or anyone else. And that cleared the way for me and my sons and their mom to have Thanksgiving dinner together, to have Christmas together, to be able to play again in family gatherings with our grandchildren. That's what's real. Only love is real. Yeah. So let's see what else we've got going on here. How does forgiveness technology work with the concept of a miracle mindset? Is it a different thing? Well, forgiveness technology is the activity of creating a miracle mindset. The miracle mindset is the opened mindset that is so clear that you can actually feel and see your own innocence. The past is not being dragged into the future with guilt. And that innocence that you feel and know to be your true self is reflected in all your relationships. And that means no matter what anybody throws at you, right? You're transparent. It goes right through. It doesn't stick. Because it can only stick if you feel guilt or shame. If you go into that pattern that they're trying to make you feel guilty, shameful, because they think you owe them something. And I apologized and apologized and apologized for 17 years, and it didn't land. They still were holding what I was holding in my mind, that, I needed to pay, and they were valid in their projections towards me. And really, there's nothing wrong with any of this. This is the process that we all came to learn. Jesus teaches us in A Course in Miracles, and this book I'm going to share with you, Love Without End, that if you can learn this forgiveness technology, you can throw out every other book that you're studying on spiritual psychology. Yeah, because you'll walk in the earth as a purely innocent, radiant being that knows its oneness with God and will reflect love everywhere you go, regardless of what people think of you, about you. Yeah, so I think that answers those questions. And if there are any more, please type them in the chat, people. I appreciate it. Those were excellent questions. Thank you, whoever put those in there. All right. So I'll give you a second to maybe scribe a few questions. And if there are none there, we'll move on. Okay. I want to share with you, as I have before, this amazing book. Yeah, It's called Love Without End, Jesus Speaks by Glenda Green. Now, that picture on the cover is a painting of hers called First Light. She's a famous portrait artist, Glenda Green. And she actually sat with Jesus to paint his portrait in the early year of 1992. And how that came about is a miracle. And, you know, Jesus's specialty is miracles. So what I want to share with you, which really touched me deeply this week in my studies, is the moment the Holy Spirit came to her to commission her for the portrait. So, up to this point, Glenda Green and her husband, they had suffered their house burning down and losing her entire studio. This was in 91. And the story is all in the book if you want to read the full story, because I'm not going to give you that. We don't have time for that. But after they had found a new house and she set up her studio, she was still quite, beside herself. All of her paintings and her studio being destroyed, had to rebuild her life from scratch. And she's she's sitting in her dining room alone, with her hands folded, in her head, in her arms, just wondering about her life and how to rebuild it. And this is what happened. I'm going to read chapter 1, just the beginning of it. It's called Let There Be Light, and that is what this painting is. That's the painting of Let There Be Light. Yeah. These are Glenda's words. And this is the moment she was commissioned by the Holy Spirit to do this. And there was no words exchanged. So this is what happened. The brilliance was intense. It filled the room so completely that all shadows departed. Glancing upward, I observed the chandelier was off. This was not surprising, because I sensed there was nothing artificial about the soft, white radiance engulfing everything, like a cloud descending from heaven. The whole house possessed a stillness and silence of a new fallen snow. Through the quiet, reverent space, there streamed silvery threads of light, energetic ripples, and pulsations of air being expanded as if by a flame. The ripples, which flowed in all directions, took their source from a spot of hyperluminescence that was almost blinding to me. This resplendence was like a sun, though not fiery. More likely, it was a concentration of the same quality of light that was everywhere. Its special glory was in its dazzling brightness and patterns of silver and gold, which were laced with opalescence white and sparkles of lavender, blue, and rose. I could look toward the center for only a second before the light caused my eyes to fill with tears. It was so bright. Stunned, I had to look away, and at that moment I heard sounds forming into the pattern and cadence of language, although it was no language I had heard before. As the words formed a meaning in my mind, the message was, "Greetings, Glenda." In this presence, there was unspeakable holiness. If light could sing, it would have been chanting celestial sounds. If light were fragrant, it would have exuded the innocence of high mountain air. I turned to look again, but the radiance was simply overwhelming. Closing my eyes, I protected them from the glow and wept at the same time. No sooner had I escaped within myself Then this holy presence shot a beam of energy from itself to a point between my eyebrows. There was a sensation of pressure, which caused me to open my eyes and verify. What I saw was a stream of energy pouring into me. Returning to the comfort of my inner vision, I watched as a picture was being etched into my memory. It took about 5 seconds for the rendering to be completed. The vision seemed to be implanted in the optical part of my brain. It was immutable and would be available for me to view whenever I chose. Mesmerized by its beauty, I gazed in rapture upon an inner vision of Jesus Christ, which was complete, three-dimensional, and holographic. Majestically, he stood on a hilltop overlooking a green river valley, towering above grazing sheep, while a billowing cloud on the horizon was forming the shape of a lion. I couldn't have asked for a more vivid, realistic picture from which to paint. It was the next best thing to having Jesus actually present. Interestingly, though, it did not look as my preconceptions would have envisioned. Conditioned, as most Western Christians are, by Semitic stereotypes, I was surprised to be looking into deep greenish-blue eyes framed by amber-brown hair. When my awareness finally externalized, I found that the radiant presence had gone, and objective reality conformed to normal expectations. Nevertheless, I knew that something about me would never be the same. That intuition proved to be true, for everything in my life changed after that holy moment. The splendid light would be forever etched on my soul, or perhaps united with my heart in a single enduring beat. Within me now, a spark of light had been awakened, which would become the doorway to greatly expanded awareness of life. Do you want to hear more? It goes, yep. We could stop there if you like. Give me a thumbs up or something if you want to hear some more. Okay. Not getting a lot of responses there, so I'll assume. 40 days would pass before I would be secure enough in the meaning of this encounter to actually begin the painting. Each morning, I eagerly sought to rekindle my conscious involvement with the vision through reverent acknowledgement and meditation. I would study its every nuance and inhale it into my being like the breath of life. As the days passed, the vision became more complete, and the presence of Jesus grew more alive. This alone distinguished it from my past experience with visual inspirations or dreams, which usually diminished through repeated recollection. At first, the sensation was like that of peering through a clear window and greeting a friend looking back from the outside. The beautiful eyes, engaging my devotion, would eventually dissolve the glass boundary between us and magnetically draw me into his world. As that happened, his presence was correspondingly more compelling and dynamic. It seems as though I had encountered a world of sensory richness as vivid and complete as an epic dream. But the dream was in a state more wakeful than any I had ever known. To consider another very relevant contrast, the dreams of our sleeping state are entered through darkness, and my visits with Jesus were entered through a pinhole of radiant light which was both palatable and living. Okay, now here's the timetable of what happened here. This is kind of cool. The days between November 23rd and January 1st, that's 91, were fertile days of creative preparation, explorations of personal reality and intellectual contemplation, which had suddenly taken a quantum leap into the realm of cosmic and infinite probability. So there was a little over 5 weeks, 5 weeks, a week in November and all of December in 91. As a scholar of medieval Christian art, I was familiar with many recorded and often illustrated paranormal visions of Jesus and Mary. Considering the monastic life of extended hardship and duress that usually accompanied those sacred visitations, I felt some concern at first about my own well-being. But glowing health soon dispelled those fears, and my greater fascination turned into another spectrum of academic background, the study of light and physics. In all of this, I had been given the rare opportunity of having a mystical experience profoundly vivid to all the senses, at a time in history when enough information exists about the universe to offer insights and bridges to unite the normal and the paranormal. Yeah. So, the name Pri Brahm came to mind. With his significant research about the holographic functions of the human brain, it had already been demonstrated by others that in seeing, the visual cortex was responding not to patterns of light, dark, or color, but to frequencies of various waveforms. Using the same mathematics and holography to convert these waveforms into discernible images after it entered our senses. Okay, well, this gets into the science of before he arrived at her door. And she's setting up the whole idea of how she was able to be with him. And what I got from meditating on all of this was that the Holy Spirit in her dining room that day adjusted her pineal gland so that she could perceive the fifth dimension that was about to come into the third dimension more accurately in focus so that she could paint him. Because for a long time before all of this occurred, her husband at the time had dreams about her painting Christ. And her being a scholar of art, professor, and a world-famous portrait artist, she said, "No way. I'm not painting Jesus. No way. There have been too many paintings already, and nobody really knows what he looks like." So the husband, he had this dream a couple of times, and he kept coming to Glenda and saying, "Glenda, you know, this is after the house burned down, the second dream. I keep having this dream that you're going to be painting Christ. You're going to be painting Jesus." And she got upset the second time. She said, "Look, you know me. As a portrait artist, I need to be able to touch someone's face and feel their bone structure before I'll paint it. And that way it becomes most accurate. And there's no way I'll even consider painting Jesus unless he shows up and sits for me. And I don't want to hear about this dream of yours anymore," she says to her husband. Well, let's see here. This is, as this first chapter goes on. Okay, here it is. On January 2nd, 1992. I entered my studio with a peace that made for uneasiness, a peace that my body could only recognize as the bristling and imminent presence of a destiny. I have felt this before. I'm sure you have too. A full precognition of something that's about to happen, that you were born to live, and yet it's not yet appeared in this dimension. Even though the room smelled not of holy incense, but of linseed oil and turpentine, it possessed the subtle ambience of a temple. Perhaps my own feelings were displaying the nature of my expectations, or perhaps there was a holiness of spirit which preceded my arrival on that day, and had prepared a place for the opening lines of the creation to come. Either way, my senses were clear and clean, as if I had been newly born into the world. Everything from the dust on the windowsill to my slightly askew arrangement of brushes to the towering easel in front of me adorned the moment when details I will never forget. The room was filled with natural sunlight, although it conveyed the sense of another sacred light I had experienced earlier. As I passed through its rays, my body's motion slowed down to time frames that were seconds long and moving toward stillness. I was overcome by the serene and inevitability of the moment, as if everything was suspended in time and space. It felt as though 1,000 eyes were upon me, and I searched the space within and without to discover my watcher. The silence was broken only by a chant of meows outside the studio door. Gunner, my beautiful Himalayan cat, wanted to join whatever was going to happen in the studio. I moved with some reservation toward the door and hesitantly opened it. Somehow I expected to see more than Gunner, but was quite relieved to see that it was only my little blue eyes twinkling up at me. He darted in quickly, as if to suggest that timing and opportunity were essential to the moment. Something was about to happen which was not to be missed. Then he scurried over to one of the 2 white pillars I used for meditation and prayer. I turned to face the large, pristine canvas mounted on my easel, but I did not yet have the right feeling to begin. So I joined Gunner on the pillows and began my daily practice of communing with Jesus by focusing on the spot of light within until the vision emerged. Today, especially, I wanted to study its details as closely as possible, because once I switched my focus outwardly toward the canvas, my whole attention would be cast into the creative process. Suddenly, another meow from Gunner disrupted the intensity of the meditation as a gentle wind swept through the room, brushing my face. The light within, which had been illuminating the picture in my mind, was now shining through my eyelids from without. With a certainty unparalleled in my life, I opened my eyes to behold Jesus standing right in front of me, towering above my seated position at his feet. With slow and careful reverence, I rose, took my place in the painting chair, and began the drawing on the canvas. The problem of how I could behold the vision and paint at the same time had been solved, although by what power of majesty or mystery I could not say. There were no words, but I could not stop smiling as I began to transcribe his presence onto the pure white surface. From that day forward, whenever I worked on my easel, he would appear as if in full living reality, three-dimensionally before me. Day by day, it was more than a vision. He was there, and we would become a team for creating this painting. It took 2 or 3 days to complete the drawing, so I didn't start painting until the following week. But applying the first layer of paint, I expected to be taking some time off, which is the way it is with oil paints, which has a lengthy drying time on various colors. That is one of the time-consuming aspects of oil painting medium. Fortunately, some of the colors dry a little faster than others, so there's usually some part of the canvas that can still be worked. Nevertheless, waiting to at least 1 day is typical. The next morning I entered the studio to check on the canvas, and everything was dry. Absolutely everything. I was shocked. I never use dryers or thinners because the constitution and longevity of the paint would be compromised. So how was this happening? It was a mystery to me. But the fact was, the paint always dried within hours instead of days for the duration of the project. This would have a tremendous impact on its estimated date of completion. Except for Sundays, the painting unfolded without interruption. The timing of everything was flawless, and all my needs were provided. Well, I think that's enough of this story for the time being. And I'll share with you, this is the black and white version of the painting. You can see the sketch of it there. And on the back of the book is the color version. See if that'll come into focus. The Lamb and the Lion by Glenda Green. Yeah, so miracle mindset is what she needed to paint this picture. And, you know, our programming doesn't really offer us a miracle mindset. And that's why I want to encourage everyone watching this broadcast to show up at least for the first Saturday and get the principles of a miracle mindset planted in your brain, which will be presented to you by all the beings that support miracles in the world through me, of which I have lots to share with you in that regard. So, if there are any questions, please type them in the chat. Any comments about this morning's broadcast, I would appreciate that. I'll open up the chat here. See if anybody has any offerings. Okay. Wayne, have you personally had the kind of mystical experience, maybe in your Lomi training or practice? Yes. Yes. Absolutely. It would take a lot of linear time to share some of those experiences with you. But the answer, John, is yes. Thank you for that question. That's what I loved so much about the work of Hawaiian shamanic bodywork, was it kept placing me in a temple to do healing with others that would allow the Holy Spirit to come forward and do the healing through me and through them. And I would often call on the beings, the unseen beings, to assist. Yeah. Because I knew this work wasn't about me. I knew it so well. And in my sessions of healing sessions, there would be a lot of prayers, chanting, singing Hawaiian. And I could feel as if I was a hollow bone or a clear bamboo. I could feel the Aloha Spirit, Holy Spirit, doing the healing through me as I would just surrender to the energy that was palatable in the room. And the light that she speaks of that first came to her to initiate her, have her vision open. I felt that many, many times in my healing temple. And to be honest, I miss that. I have not been doing sessions now for a few months, and I miss that communion in that way. And I'm striving with all that I know to recreate that with musical performances. So on that note, I'm going to sing you a song, and we're going to close this session today. And I hope to see all of you on Saturday for Miracle Mindset Training. Yeah, because you can buy one Saturday, or you can buy all Saturdays. And this song is quite, I believe, apropos for today's message. This book is called Love Without End, and the song is called Love Will Come Through. When your dreams start to come true, want you to know that you brought them all on you. Living, working from day to day, just doing what you do. Love will come through for you. Many a day passed me right by. Never a day I did not wonder why. It seemed so long a road to try. Just doing what you do. Love will come through for you. You know it will. Just doing what you do. Love will come through. Just remember the simple life is not far away. 'Cause love is gonna find you there, wherever you are to. Yeehaw! Doing what you do. Your love will come right through for you. Just doing what you do. Love will come through for you. Just doing what you do. Love will come through. Just doing what you do. Love will come through for you. Yeah. All right, everybody. Well, I'm so glad to see you, Tim. Thanks for showing up. Yeah. Awesome, buddy. Yeah. And if if uh, if you can make it on Saturday, I think you would be really glad you did. We planted some good seeds in our private session, and I'd love to see that working for you a little deeper. And Penelope, Michael, John, all those on YouTube, please consider joining me on Saturday. I think you'll be really glad that you did. All right, folks, I've got to run off to another meeting. So I'm going to bless you and your live stream and all the people in your orbit with miracle mindset technology, the ability to see your own innocence and everyone else's innocence, and feel that deeply in your soul and radiate the light that you are, even through the feelings that are not as comfortable as the ones we want. Yeah. So God bless you all, and thanks for showing up. And I'll see you next Sunday. So, as they say in Hawaii, hui ho. Till we meet again, malama pono. Take the very best care of yourself. Aloha.